Welcome to Archery Talk 101 podcast, your guide to better archery skills. We'll bring you the latest tips, tricks, and expert advice, but that's not all. We'll also have interviews with top archers and industry professionals and reviews of the latest gear and equipment and much more. Hey, what's it like to shoot archery in Scotland? Well, we're going to find out today. We have our guest online. It actually is in Scotland, and we're going to talk to him about what it's like in there to shoot archery. Hi, my name is Roy Canterbury. I'm going to be host today on Arch Talk 101. And for those that are catching us, you can watch it live in the Arch Talk 101 Facebook group, as well as catch it on Spotify and Audible. And then on my YouTube channel, Learn to Fix It Yourself. You can also watch them there. And, now we got that away. Let's have fun talking with David about archery in Scotland. Welcome to the show,
Hi,
David.
thank you very much, man. Hi, nice to have it on. It's been fantastic, man. Yeah.
So,
hi. So you go, man. And you
go. Tell us a little something about yourself.
Well, okay. I've been doing archery for a long time. I started, as we all do, with a stick and a string. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we all start with a stick and a string, and it's brilliant. And you're using your imagination. You watch all the movies, you watch all the TV series, you watch Robin Hood. Yeah. It's brilliant. And you can see oh wow, and you can see it's a first representation of a bow and arrow, really. Yeah, and you pick it up through literature as well. So I was reading a lot of David Leather and Archery all the time, and they had some characters like, wow, you can shoot a bow that far.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, when you get your stick and it goes that far, there's something to look. There's a gap. There's lots of things to learn.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah.
You would think, stick and string, the definition of archery
that's right.
would be simple, but it's not. There's a lot you have to look at, and getting it to shoot good and you learning your form.
That's right.
It's not as simple as what people think.
Yeah, that's right. Definitely, because you pick up a step and you test it a little bit. This has got a bit of flex to it. There's something here, okay, right? And then you feel a wee bit more. Wait a minute, it's flexing, And then you start to string it up, and then you start to shoot it. There you go. And you learn pretty quickly. It's asymmetric.
Yeah.
This bow's going to be asymmetric. That's okay. The Japanese longbow is epic.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we think our longbows are long. The English longbow and the Japanese longbow, they're not even close to being the same.
I know they're fabulous. You know what I mean? And something I've always wanted to do. But when you're trying to get to the place where they have it, it's like, how do I get that in? Yeah, I mean, okay. So yeah. And when you're working with a piece of stick, it's the first one being a bow. You get a draw length of about that size. You know what I mean? And then as you get more, as you understand how things flex, and you do a lot of reading. Yeah, you do a lot of reading and a lot watching and a lot of YouTube channels. They're amazing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's quite a bit. I've watched guys, making bows, and that they aren't going to just go out and drop back and shoot it the first time.
That's right.
They kind of pull it back a little bit and let it down and go a little bit further and a little bit further and a little bit further and just kind of train it that it's okay to be flexed in and go back. And it's kind of interesting, when you're doing it, you think, make the bow, drop back, shoot it. Yeah, no, not really. Fortunately, the new ones you buy now, you don't have to go through all that. But if you're just making one,
I know, and when you start to make when you appreciate how much it work and design and amazing craftsmanship goes into bows.
Yeah.
I know. I've got one of my. We'll come to it later, but I've got my favorite bow here at the moment. aboard a boat. It's beautiful, man. Yeah, the craftsmanship. Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen some of those, the custom bow manufacturers that are actually, they're just a bower on themselves, that they just
Exactly.
make, it's not a
Yeah,
production, and each one is just, it's amazing, the work they're putting into them. And being a hobby woodworker, I can see, what they have to do to go through to make all that. It's not a simple task, but it's great looking bows, and some of them actually shoot really good too.
Yeah, that's it. That's exactly it. Yeah, and I've been lucky to chat to a lot of amazing people, and all fantastic. I'm grateful for the help. I was chatting with a guy, we got talking, and he was talking about his father. And he was talking to his father, we make a bow. And his father would say, well, this is the bow as it's going to be, and then we make another one. And I think that's a brilliant way of doing it.
Yeah, just you look at it and say, this is what it's going to be, and then not how to make it there.
Yeah, that's right, man. Aye.
I know it, and each piece of wood's going to tell you to do something different with it. I know, I've made, I haven't made any recently, but I used to make duck calls and deer calls, and you take the piece of wood, but first thing you do is you make it round, and then you stop and look at it, and it will tell you the design you need to make that call. It's like, okay, I want this design. No, the wood says, no, you're not doing that. You just look at it and say, what looks cool with that piece of wood? And each one is different. You're going to make each one a different, and same thing, with the bows. Each one is going to look a little bit different, because after all, it's not a man-made material. It's a naturally grown material. And, if you're using like a piece of walnut, no two pieces of walnut are identical.
That's right.
Not even from the same tree.
And the environment and the local conditions and the soil conditions, it all makes a difference. And it makes a unique living piece of artwork.
Well, that a tree growing, even the same species of tree grown over in Scotland as grown here in Nebraska is going to look completely different.
Completely different. You're right.
Our weather is different, and the amount of rain, the amount of sunshine, the heat. I don't know what kind of temperature you get over there, but it's not unheard of for us to get over 100-degree temperatures here. And minus 20, so we get a big extreme.
That's a big range. That's a very big range for you to cope with, and that will affect how it grows here. Well, technically speaking, we're in the temperate zone, so that basically means that we are not. The temperature doesn't go way too high and way too low. It's in the middle, more often than not. Sometimes we get some quite relatively warm weather, like today. It can make you feel brilliant. It's summer, but sometimes we've had weather events like the Beast from the East, and the temperature went straight down. So it can be unpredictable. You know what I mean? And sometimes it used to be that you could predict things from year to year. Now it's a bit more random.
The globe is constantly changing, so
it is,
year to year it may be the same, may not. You never know.
Yeah, that's right. And what you're saying, that where you grow, where you are, will have a different quality to it. It'll flex differently. It'll resist. It will resist. It'll resist the temperature differently. What you can do with it, like you were saying, it's different. And here, what we used to do back in the day is we would dry things for years. We actually there's a great museum nearby, and they actually have part of that reconstructed, and it's amazing to see how everything's been put together, and the care they took to get that wood just to season it right.
It's amazing, some of the things that are done and taken into account for the seasonal changes in the wood. And here we have big extremes. In the summertime it's real humid, wintertime it's real dry, and things shrink and then expand. And even shooting, compound bows, you're shooting in the wintertime, your bow acts differently than it does in the summertime in the heat.
Yeah.
And it's all different. And, hopefully, at hunting range at 20 yards, or less, it doesn't make much difference. It's just, if you can pull it back in the wintertime when you're cold, you're stiff, you got a whole bunch of clothes on, the bow is going to fight you a little bit more because it's cold and stiff. And then, if you can get it drawn back, you're good.
Yeah, that's right. We don't do the bow hunting here in Scotland, but we do practice in 3D targets, so we do get that same experience. What you're talking about, when the bow is stiff and you're drawing it back, and then as the day warms up, it flexes a bit more. Yeah. And then and you're thinking, hang on a minute, I was going, that was hitting perfectly in the morning.
Yeah.
What's going on?
Yeah. Bow warmed up, you warmed up, and it's shooting differently.
That's right. Yeah. That's exactly right. But particularly, I mean, it's interesting that's a factor with the compound, because you would assume, because it's a machine,
right?
You'd assume logically, if you look at a compound bow, you think, okay, that's a metal riser, metal. Okay, and then it's got a cam system. You look at that, you'd assume it would feel you're okay with that. But it's interesting to hear that the heat does affect it.
Yeah, it does. Your strings are susceptible to the heat as well, so they may soften up and get a little bit, a little bit more flexing and stretching. And where they're cold, they're not going to stretch. There's all kinds of different things. Depending on what you use to lube your cams. When they're really cold and freezing, if you didn't lube it with the right stuff, now that grease is going to be slower. It's going to slow your bow down if you didn't use the correct lube, and that all changes. And the way your rest can work. It's especially if you're out a little bit of snow or something, and then it melts on it and then freezes. Your rest may not work right.
That's right, and it's going to affect how efficient the bow is. Yeah, it's not going to be. It's usually sweet, and then you're going around and you're dropping. You'll be dropping. In our case, dropping points. You know what I mean? And that's where people can get a bit frustrated. Is it me? Is it the bow? Is it the conditions? Yeah.
Well, and then as it's cold in the morning and warms up, then you have the heat rises, and that can change your arrow. And generally at the closer ranges, it really doesn't matter. But when you start getting out, the little bit longer range, especially like traditional equipment, they're not as fast, and that extra distance can make a difference.
It can. It can make that challenge. It can make that. But like you're saying that, and that you're saying, there's more time for all the variables to kick in. Yeah. So for a compound, it's interesting to know what is that extra distance. You see, is it like?
Well, the little bit longer distance is going to be your 40 plus.
Okay. Okay, that's interesting.
Where with a recurve or a longbow, you got your 20, 30, maybe 40 might be a long range. Well, the compounds 40 to 60 to 80. Is what we're going to shoot on some of those, depending on what tournament you're in, and what their specs are. But I was in a field round where it was, I think it was 40, 50, and 60 yards is what I was shooting. And by the time you get 60 yards, you don't have a 60-yard pin. At the time I did, and it's like, okay. I got to guess. I need to put my 40-yard pin at the top of the target, because I didn't have a pin for it, so because I'd never shot that distance, I'm a bow hunter with old eyes, so I don't shoot long range anymore.
Well, that's understandable. So we're using a multi-pin sight then to do that?
I do. Some of them use a single pin where you adjust the pin. There's little markings on it. Okay, this is 20, 30, 40, 50, whatever your distance are. And you move the pin, and then and then you don't have to worry about picking the pin. If you say, okay, I think this is 23 yards, you set your sight for 23 yards and you shoot right there where you want it. I don't on bow hunting because it's too hard to adjust it. You know, if you set them for 20 yards and all of a sudden it comes out at 40, now then I got to hurry up and adjust it. You know, I prefer fixed pins. You know, I know some people that will shoot a single pin out hunting. You know, they'll set it for like 20 yards, and if it goes out further, they'll just aim a little high. You know, I don't. I know there are some that do. Some use caliper type releases, the wrist strap. I use a handheld when I hunt. You know, I have one that fits in my hand.
That's interesting because I see the guys that are at the professional side, and they open up the release trains, like there's like 20 of them.
Yeah.
And then they open another train, there's another 20 down there. But for the average guy like yourself, hello, you can't afford to buy, you know, a whole tray of releases. So it's interesting to know there's a difference between the two styles.
Right. One fastens to your wrist, not onto your. A lot of people try and put them on the hand itself.
Yeah.
No, you want it back on behind that bone on your forearm bone, the bone itself. Because now as you pull, you know, I tell people, you know, just take a hand like this and now pull and feel where the pressure is. You feel the pressure in the wrist.
All right.
Okay. You put your hand back behind there and pull. Where's the pressure? You feel it in your back. Here you feel it in the arm mostly. Now I'm used to pulling with my back, so I feel it more, but you feel it more in the elbow. Back here, you don't feel it in the elbow, you feel it in your back. So that's the proper way to use a release. I do know guys that use a release on a recurve. You know, but you could do it.
Really, that's fantastic. Particularly if you get stiff knuckles and stiff fingers. You know, I mean, if you find your fingers aren't working as well as
right.
Yeah. Aye. And there you
go. And you know what I'll tell people, you know, it's like to see what the difference is, have somebody grab your arm on the hand itself. And now you pull like you're trying to draw your bow, and you feel it more in your elbow. Where if you pull back here, you don't feel it in your elbow. You're actually stronger because you use your back muscles instead of using more of your chest muscles. This is more of your back muscles. You can just feel it. Even if you try it, you know, hold your hand like this, you know, for those listening, I'm grabbing my hand and I've got it in front of me, and then I'm just kind of pulling away each, you know, away.
You've got a back effect on this, so it's coming flicking in and out.
When you have it on the hand, you feel it in the chest. Grab back further, and now you don't feel it in the chest much, you feel it more in the back muscles. And it's the same thing when you guys using, you know, the fingers, except your hands a little bit different position. You're still going to use those back muscles to pull. You're still going to come back to your anchor point. You know, I can do whether you have whatever type of release you use, whether you're using fingers, wrist strap, or handheld, you know, or some call them, you know, thumb releases, which you don't use your thumb to fire them, but and now when you release, you're still going to pull the back muscles, except for you guys at the recurves, you're actually kind of more around your face, a little bit more around. We're pulling back and we're coming more straight back. Cool. You're going to kind of make that circle around there. So
because you've still got that.
Up to the point you got your anchor point, there's not a lot of difference. I hold my recurve exactly like I do my compound. I stand with a real closed stance where my toes are pointing straight to my target, and I'm pushing straight out to the side.
You want everything to be in line with the target.
Yeah, everything in line. So when it goes off, my hand goes straight to the target. Now, the disadvantage of that technique is if you're gripping the bow, you're going to hit your arm.
So we don't want that.
Guaranteed, you're going to hit your arm. You have to, you know, get that grip that goes between index and thumb finger down the lifeline, right into the heel part of your hand. And if you're pushing with that, I still hold it. I don't have a sling on it, so I just kind of wrap my fingers around so I don't drop the bow. But I don't even hang on to my compound. I don't hang on it at all. It does what it wants to do, and
completely relax, and it's
you know, you don't pull the trigger, you don't use your thumb to pull it, and you know, it's, you know, I was originally taught for releasing with my recurve, because when I started in archery, you had a choice of recurve, longbow, wood, or fiberglass, and your arrows were wood or wood. Yeah, wood or feather. You know, you want 4-inch or 5-inch feathers. That was your option.
Yeah, there wasn't much about it.
And they taught there is just do that, just open your fingers. You know,
Yeah,
over
yeah.
the years, that's changed because you can't consistently open the fingers. You got to
Oh,
relax them
yeah.
as you're pulling through.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah. And but I love that when we're looking at when we start with this technique, and then we think, oh, wait a minute, we can maybe make that technique slightly better and improve it, like I said,
right,
following through, and then you're kind of, because a lot in those times your choices were, did it get better or do I go stronger?
yeah,
You get what I mean? Yeah. You know, I had to go
well,
up in poundage, you know, to get that. You know, and some folk would always say, "Oh no, I need a really high poundage. I need really high poundage to feel that." Yeah, I mean, but it's interesting. By evolving your technique, you can actually save yourself some effort, if you like.
yeah, and you know, and a lot of the old archers had shoulder problems because they locked
Ah,
that arm out. You know, they
mm,
put that arm guard on there and lock that arm out.
mm,
Well, when you
mm,
lock your arm out, all that pressure from the bow
yeah,
goes into your shoulder. Your shoulder, your tendons have to hold it.
yeah,
Drop that
right.
shoulder down. Now all the pressure goes through the joints,
And
not through
everything's
the arms.
yeah, yeah, and everything sounds to be so the system's better balanced. So you're not
Right.
getting that pressure at that one particular point. It's transitioned through the system.
Yeah, through the
Yeah.
whole body. And
Uh-huh.
you know,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
some of the things that you learn.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I started doing martial arts before I
Ah,
learned the back tension release.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
I've kind of incorporated them in what I learned in efficiency of
Uh-huh.
power
Yeah, yeah,
in martial
absolutely.
arts. I apply to my archery,
Yeah, yeah.
and you know
And
when I
there's a
teach,
lot of crossover between the two.
yeah. Well,
Absolutely.
archery is a martial art.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, yeah. That's
You
right.
know,
And yeah. And I find the easiest way to help somebody get started is just start with the stance. I call it a Zenbo.
yeah,
You know what I mean? You know what I mean?
yeah,
And that way you can feel what it is where things are, you know, oh, yeah, no, wait a minute. Now this is a unique, for an archer, this is a unique experience. I can see myself. More often than not, I have to point that out because I can actually see myself here. But normally you can't, it's all done by feel. Yeah?
yeah. And that's what's nice about shooting blank bales.
Yeah, yeah, I
Basically,
love that.
you have no
I
target, and your
really like
eyes are
that.
closed. You're close enough, you
Yeah,
can't miss it. You have a
that's
spotter,
right.
just somebody
And you
walks
feel
down
totally,
range.
you feel totally safe. Like you said, you can't miss it. It's point blank. And you're doing
Right.
that. Blank bales is fantastic. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And with your eyes closed, it's amazing what you can see your
Mm,
body doing. And
mm,
I know when I first learned back tension release, they had us, you know,
mm.
point blank to the target, and there's like
Yeah,
20 some
yeah.
of us
Perfect.
along the line, and you're
Yeah,
shooting with your eyes closed and finally feeling what it feels
yeah.
like. Okay, that's what it should feel like. Open your eyes up, and you can't do it.
Yeah, that's
Close your
because
eyes, open. Yeah,
but it's building in total confidence. You know that's going to hit
right.
there. And you relax a bit more when you know what I mean? Because when you first get your first compound bow, your brain thinks it's like the Terminator.
Yeah.
I'm going to pick this up and it's going and I think the custom bow as well, by the way. You think it's going to doof automatically just nail the target, but there's a process in between there, you know what I mean?
Right, right. And you know, we've talked about all kinds of different aspects on the
Yeah.
last podcast. We talked about, you know, some of the mental game that
Mm,
you can play, you know, with yourself and against somebody else. And you know,
yeah.
we talked about, you know, the mental game. Somebody tries to mess with your mind, they're also messing with their own.
Mm,
So you have to go through the process and just be in the zone, be in what you
yeah, yeah,
want
that's right.
to happen.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
you know,
yeah,
the power of the
yeah.
universe, it's gonna bring what you think of. And
Absolutely, absolutely. And if it doesn't feel right, let it down. Now I know that's harder on the compound than a recurve because you've got all that tension there. You know, in
yeah.
a recurve, as I pull, I'm building tension. Therefore, if it doesn't feel right, you know what I
I've
mean?
had some bows where, you know, it's such, the cam takes off and you're back and you go to
Uh-huh.
let down and it just go all of a sudden just, you know, it just
Uh,
takes it away. It's hard to let down on some of those like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
You know, it takes a little bit of doing it. And the
Mm.
problem you run into letting down is if you have
Mm.
that death grip on that bow,
That's
you
right.
can
If you've
torque
really
it
got that,
and then you derail your string
we don't want that.
because you've got it torqued. We
All
talked
right.
about
Okay.
on the last one. If
Yeah,
you
yeah, you've
if
got
you
that
hold your
rule.
bow, hold it lightly, and now make a tight grip. See what your bow
Ah,
does. It will actually turn.
yeah, that's right. Rule.
Yeah.
Oh,
So as
yeah,
you grip it tighter, it turns and turns more and more.
yeah.
And you know, some people believe in paper tuning.
Mm-hmm.
I don't, because that really doesn't tell you anything. Because I can
Okay.
take a perfectly bow that shoots a perfect hole, and I can
Uh-huh.
make it shoot a bad hole.
Uh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
I can make it shoot a bad hole
I
just by what
know.
I do with my hand,
Yeah,
and it's
just by
got nothing to do with the
just by
bow.
that small movement. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's really interesting. That small movement has that a magnified effect. Like you said, we don't notice it at the short distances, but we would notice it when we're shooting further away.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and then paper tuning, if you do it up close, you may or may not get a good tear. If you go 20 yard down range, shoot 20 yards away, if you don't have a good tear, it's because you're way underspined on your arrow, which means you need to replace your arrow.
Yeah.
And
Much,
one of the things that paper can tell you is, how your arrow is flying at different distances.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
So
Absolutely.
if your arrow is fishtailing side to side, you have a too weak of a spine or up and down. There could be something with your rest, but if it's going side to side or up and down at different distances, say it's high and then it's low, then it's high, then it's low. That's telling you your spine is off. Because
Yeah,
after a
that's
certain
right.
distance, all your arrows are going to stabilize.
Yeah, yeah.
They'll eventually stabilize. So you can use it for that, but as far as setting it up, the way I set up a compound. Now, your recurve, you don't have as much adjustment, so you got to tune knock points and different things, and
Yeah.
spines of arrows, length of arrows,
Yeah,
and all
that's
that
right.
goes into that.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
on the compound, if center shot design riser, which all the new ones are, ever since PSE patent the center shot design
Yeah,
riser,
yeah.
they've all been using it.
Oh, cool.
PSE didn't
Mhm.
restrict their patent, but they own the patent on center shot design risers.
All right, okay, so they can then customize the system then. They can then build that system. Yeah, yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
what I do is I get the bow and the jig, and I level the riser so it's level.
Cool.
And then I'll put a level on the
Mhm.
string and make sure that it's plumb. And
That's
then now I
perfect.
know that's all level and plumb. And now then I'll put the rest on, and I have a laser I bolt onto the sight, and I line it back up on the string. And then so I got it adjusted so it's running right on the string, and I'll put out the tip of the arrow, and I'll adjust that rest until that laser hits the tip of the arrow, put a point on it. And now that's perfectly center shot. And then while I have the riser level and the string level, I'll put a level on the arrow, and I'll adjust the knock point until it's that level. I'll put it at the tip until that's level. Now I'm all level and plumb, and we're center shot design. Now, the only thing that could be off is your third axis on your sight. As you're tilting the bow down or up, that sight could be off slightly.
Yeah, yeah.
That's some bow sights will have that axis adjustment, and some don't. Some you have to actually put shims in, to get that third axis. If it's not, yeah. Your higher end ones, generally, I've never had to really adjust the higher end ones unless it has adjustment for it. Then it may or may not be, because they're machined very well. Your cheaper ones aren't machined as well, so you may have to tweak those.
But it's one of those things. Yeah. When you're working with something that's cheaper, there's more to learn.
Right.
There's more. Yeah, there's more, and you have to be more patient with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. And you may end up buying more than one of them. Collection of them. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot to do them, and I learn a lot on tuning, recurves and longbows from you guys that shoot them all the time and have to adjust them. I have one, of course, that's what I started off with. I shoot instinctively, and then I seen this one guy on YouTube, Jake Kaminsky, and he is talking about string walker. I was like, I'm thinking, okay, is that something to do with a Skinwalker Ranch? The place in Utah. I was like, no. What you're doing is you have up the top against it, and that is your distance, and then that's your long distance. You went closer. Now you move your hand down on your string, And you might be moving a 1/16 of an inch, but you move it down to your closer ranges.
That's right.
Yeah. And then there's the gap shooting where you're using the tip of your arrow and you're referencing that. And I just look at the target where I want it to go and concentrate on where I want it to go and shoot.
Instinctive. You just keep an eye on it. I sometimes say, look, pull, try. So that's that process. You're looking at it, pulling. It's all happening. That fluid movement.
Yeah. And I use my recurve now mostly for bow fishing. So that is, you see the fish, you draw back, hit your anchor point, and keep going. You don't have time to string walk. You don't have time to reference the tip of the arrow. And if you're using a carbon arrow for your bow for practice and a fishing arrow, they're not even close to being the same weight. And you have a string on them that slows them down even more. So they're slow, heavy.
That's right.
And that's what I use it for now. I don't hunt with it. I don't plan on hunting with it because myself, I don't want to take the time it takes to be good enough to hunt with the recurve. I compound because I can get good enough with that without too much work.
And that was the you could put the compound down for a while and it's still there, and then the recurve, it's a process. You build up, you go and you practice. You need every feedback session, every session you go out is practice. If the arrow goes there or there or there or there, your brain's building that up and going, all right, so next time it will know I'll get up a bit there. And it can
that's kind of what I prefer is on the recurve is that, but I'm not competing in tournaments with my recurve.
No,
So I'm not trying to be, get them in that 5 spot or whatever.
That's right. That's the pressure in there, isn't it?
I'm trying to hit a smaller spot on a fish, but
that's right. You're aiming for. You're right. You're doing it. You're doing it for. There's a difference in doing it for a practical purpose and what we do over here. We do it for sport, and we're trying to hit. We're still trying to hit a small target, but we're trying to hit a 3D. So and they're different distances, which is really cool.
And then with bow fishing, you're not aiming at the fish. You're aiming not where you see it, but where it's actually at, because the water deflects it and makes it a different spot. You're going to have to shoot differently. You got to shoot below it. If it's on, and depending on how far down it is, how far you're going to have to be off, and depending on your angle.
There was a shoot I was at, we built that, and they had a 3D of that. You were shooting down.
Oh yeah.
Slow, and the fact that it was at a different angle was really it's interesting. And a lot of the courses where we shoot, they're in beautiful forests. We've got a place locally, and it's been set aside, and it's been chosen well. So you've got the lovely terrain coming in, and the undulations. So that means you can have targets different distances, and then you can So you can reproduce the essence of that legally here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's interesting, and the same skill applies. So the same method that you're using applies. It's interesting.
Yeah, and then doing the angle shots. A lot of people just drop the arm. That's not your form. Your form is up, and your form, like you're shooting straight, you have to bend at the waist down or up to get that angle. And then the feet doesn't matter. It's the relationship between your hips up. You can twist around, forward, back. You can twist whatever you want, but that's still your form as you're twisting back to make a shot towards the back, or twisting forward to make one towards the front. Nothing changes in your alignment between your hand, the bow, and your release hand. That's fixed. What you do with your waist doesn't matter. You can bend down, bend up, and then judging yardage at those angles. Now that's a challenge in itself.
Exactly. Isn't it just? It's an interesting one.
It's going to be less than what you think it is. Always.
You're right, isn't it? So when you're shooting down,
it's closer distance what you think.
That's
And
right.
I had I tell a story quite a bit because it makes the point. You know, every carpenter knows a 3-4-5 triangle. That's how you get a right angle.
Yeah. Okay.
And
That's a good analogy.
if you're out 3 and up 4, the distance between where you're at and where your target is might be 5. Well, that gives you that right angle. Well, gravity only works straight down.
That's right.
It don't care that it's going to fly for 50 yards. It cares that it's going to travel horizontally for 30. So you have to shoot it for 30, not 50. And I had a trail that when I ranged to the trail, it was before I had rangefinder. I just got a rangefinder a couple years ago. And I look at the trail, I come up, find a tree that's on the trail that I can see. I'm going to range to that tree. That tells me the horizontal distance.
That's really
and
good.
I know, you know, I looked at one, okay, that tree is 20 yards away. So that trail is 20 yards away. A deer come walking by. It looked like it was a 40 or 50 yard shot.
All right, so the optics.
Because it was so small. I shot it for 20, knowing it was 20, and I got it.
Yeah, you got the target.
If I'd have used something that ranges by size, I'd have shot way over it. Because the size is smaller, because your eyes are seeing it 50 yards away or 40 or whatever it was, you know, 40 yards away. And then that's what it looked like for size, but I knew it wasn't because I knew the distance to that spot down there. Now, if there's no trees, that's the hard part, trying to figure out where it's at. You have to kind of almost imagine where it's at, you know, or get you one of these little rangefinders.
Rangefinders are brilliant. I love rangefinders.
I got a Vortex and I don't use it really for archery. You know, I'll have my tree stand, I'll mark out, you know, where I think they would come, and then so I don't use it for there. But you know, if I'm out rifle hunting, I'll use it to know how far I'm away. But you know, once they come out, you know.
I love that though. I love the fact that up at the range we're developing, rangefinders are cool, man, because it's about learning to use the technology to help you. You know what I mean? And then after a while, because our perimeter is a fence line, so therefore you can then know that's an artificial structure. Yeah. And we can also put down, we can measure things out. But in a course, normally in a competition environment, the pegs are unmarked, you see. Now, it depends on how the organizer set it up. Sometimes you get to shoot 3 shots, sometimes it's 2, sometimes it's 1. So the one we practice that. You've got 3 shots, 1 hit. Yeah, and the pegs are in different distances.
Yeah.
So the skill there is working out the different distances without the marking on the peg.
Yeah, the challenge on those, the unmarked courses, which I haven't shot at a marked course because I really don't like the marked courses. You know, that's just a target shoot. You know, exactly. I do more for bow hunting, and so I want to judge the yardage. You know, I know if I know it's 40 yards, I can hit target.
Exactly.
You know, my challenge is figuring, okay, is this 40? Is this 35? This 45? You know, where's it at? And then figure it out. And you know, it's so, with the rangefinders, if you do it right, you judge it, you shoot it, and if you miss, then you range it to see where you was off.
Okay. So you had 2 layouts. One was marked, one was unmarked. You before the unmarked there.
Yeah, I'd go to the unmarked one.
No, fair enough. That's fair enough. Yeah, that's good to know. That's good to know. Yeah, I like that. Okay, fair enough.
Well, and I shoot spots that develop my skill. Yeah. I shoot the spots that develop my skill, so I know I can hit what I'm aiming at. But I go to the 3Ds to help me with hunting. Because hunting is what I want to do, and the 3Ds help me in judging yardage.
That's right. So you have to practice.
Not exactly shot placement, because the shot placement on the animal is not where you would actually shoot it on a real animal at that angle. Because like if you're shooting for that 10 ring, which is fairly low on the body, if you're on the ground with them, it's good. But if you're up in a tree and you shoot for that 10 ring, you have a bottom exit.
So that's the difference between the two.
Now you have now you have a no blood trail because the internals have plugged up the hole. You have to shoot higher because the heart isn't on the outside, it's in the middle. So
yeah.
So I always tell people, it's like aim for the exit hole. Where do you want the arrow to exit?
Okay.
And then shoot for that. And you know, doing a heart shot is cool, but you know, I prefer lungs and liver because then it fills up the lungs, and then they don't run very far.
I hear that. So when you're going out to a 3D competition course, it would here, so you'd be able to pick. You'd be able to be pragmatic. If you get a good vision, if you get a good sight line on the good scoring target, you could then go. But then you could pragmatically choose again, you know, the next. You know what I mean? Because it's a bit like doing a rally. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The person that comes to the shoot at the end of the day has the highest score wins. So you can then use that skill to decide: am I going to go for the inner ace, or am I actually going to go for the next one up, lower scoring point? Yeah.
Yeah.
And the way they work it, every single peg, your score drops. Yeah. So you get 3 shots, but every single time, so you got your inner you're talking about, and then you got outer one, and then as you get in the next one, score drops again. But the peg might be closer, you see, or further away.
Yeah.
So
that's an interesting way of doing it.
Yeah, it's an interesting way of doing it, isn't it?
You can have 3 shots, and you know, your first one is full score, and your second one is, you know, you're deducted by, you know, 2 points.
Yeah, that's right. So you get one hit, but three attempts. Yeah. So if you take the first shot, the highest scoring peg, and you get the outer one, you have to live with that. So it's so much as but if you're really, really good, you can then say, "Oh, I'm not going to do the first one. I'll move to the next peg. Take my second." You know what I mean? You can work tactics into it. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're using that skill that you're using, you know, to actually do it yourself. And there's other ranges where you're allowed 1 shot only.
Yeah, all of them I've been to, you get 1 shot.
That's it.
Yeah, one shot. Just like hunting, you don't get 2 practice shots. You get 1 shot. First one counts.
Yeah.
And
that's interesting. There you
go. The only thing they'll have like warm-up courses. The only thing I'm using those for is to make sure my equipment's okay. You know, I'm not going to take a bunch of warm-up shots because I don't get warm-up shots at a deer. You know, I might draw my bow back a couple of times, you know, the tree stand, with the arrow in it, just to make sure everything is right. But my first shot at that deer is the only one that counts. I don't need a second shot.
Yeah. So you're using.
If I don't make a good shot, I need a second one. But I mean, you know.
I know. So you do what common here was saying. You're talking about shooting for the money shot. He was practicing on a target. He would only do a limited number of shots per day. He wouldn't do like a bag and he had 1,000 arrows. He would do 8 shots, and then that'd be finished. I think that's a good, that's a good way of doing that kind of. Yeah, for us over here, we don't get to do the thing, unfortunately. But I'm not protesting. But we get to use the same skill, though. And we get to use the same gear, and we get to use the same methods. We get to learn from each other. You know what I mean? We get to learn the skill of it.
That's the fun part of archery, is learning that skill and learning a new skill. And I get people, it's like, oh, here's how I did. No, that's the wrong way to do it. I'll do it this way. And it's like, well, why? Give me the reason behind it. When I teach, I'm going to teach the way I like to do it, what works best for me. And I'm going to tell you why I'm doing it that way. And then we'll modify it for you.
That's perfect. I love that.
So this is the way I do it, but it doesn't necessarily mean it works for you. And you learn that over the years of teaching, between teaching martial arts and teaching, archery and everything else. What works for one person doesn't work for somebody else. Same thing in martial arts. Different bodies have different advantages and disadvantages,
Uh-huh.
and it's all learning the technique.
Aye.
I know this example, we had this lady that was, I think she was 100 pounds, maybe
Wow.
just over. And we partnered her up with a guy that was 300.
Aye.
She lifted him and threw it.
I can believe that.
3 times her weight, she was able to lift and throw it because of technique.
Yeah. That's right.
You know, we taught her
She
the
had that
technique. And the
she
same
had that.
thing.
Perfect. Yeah. And because she was lifting it, she had the right technique, she was balanced properly, and she wasn't wasting any energy or straining unduly.
Right.
You know, trying to counteract something. Yeah.
Yeah. And the same thing in archery, you know, we're going to teach you the technique that works best for you.
Yeah, that's right.
And, you know, if you get somebody that's bigger and stronger than somebody else, they can just muscle them over. They don't have to have technique. Well, in a bow, if you got strong muscle, you can do that. But if you don't have the strength, you want to do the technique. You don't need a lot of weight. Like we talked about in the last one, I killed my first year at 52 pounds with a 2117 aluminum arrow and 145 grain point and Umazi broadhead. And it was 40 yards away. And when that deer turned, that arrow almost went all the way through. I think the fletching stopped it from coming out. So you don't need a lot of weight.
No, you don't.
You know, it's just shot placement, as we all know. It's where does the shot go? I've also shot a deer at about 10 yards with a 70-pound bow with a 100 grain muzzy, and it did not penetrate through because I hit that bone on the shoulder. It just basically a minor cut.
Yeah.
You know,
I know, and I can remember back in the day when I was getting back in touch, when I was trying to get in touch, the choice was so limited. You had a 30-pound bow, and now my drawing's not that. As you probably see, it's not that big. So the bow math, that's it. You can just basically plus poundage, variations, blah blah blah. I don't believe maths. Talks to you about it. You know what I mean? Oh boy, with maths. And the next one was like 40 pounds. Okay, that's, and the next one was like 60.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, well, I've strung it. You know what I mean? But nowadays there's so much choice. There's, you know, different styles. Yeah. So if someone's looking at a catalogue and they think, right, I'm ready to get my bow. I've gone from the Genesis bow on my horse bows and my Zen bows. They're all fantastic. So what would you advise someone to look at when they see that rack of choice? How would they even get started with that?
Well, the first thing I do is, okay, if you have a budget, look at bows within your budget. You know, if you pick up that bow that is double your budget, you're going to like it, want to buy it. You know, figure out your budget first, and then just pick up every bow. You know, if you're right-handed, pick up the right-handed bows. If you're left-handed, pick up left-handed bows. Remember which dominant eye. Pick up the bow and see how it feels in your hand. Pick up the next one, and then if it feels good in your hand, then it's most likely you're going to be able to shoot it good. So then take all those that you like the way they felt, and say, okay, I want to consider these 4 bows really feel good in my hand. Grab the first one and the second one, and get them strung up. You know, or set your drawing 3 compounds, and then take a few shots with it. Take a few shots with the other one, and if you really can't tell difference, you know, with whoever's, you know, helping you with it, close your eyes and shoot the one bow, and then shoot the other bow. You know, have them hand you one of the bows, so you don't know what you're shooting,
so you get
and shoot. You get the feel of it with your eyes closed, and now then, you know, the next guy asks, which one do you like better and why? The why doesn't matter. It's just you need to, you know, I want the person to say why they like this one better.
So when you've got,
it might just be minor thing, and take that best bow, set that aside. Now grab the next, the 3 and 4 bow, you know, however you want, and which ones of those you like the best. That goes the same thing. Now then take those 2 you like the best of those 2 group, and now shoot those 2. Which one you like the best? There it is. That's your bow.
That's it. And when you're choosing bows, there's ones that you can adjust yourself, you know, with you know, with adjustable cams and stuff like that.
Right.
Or there's ones that need a bow press. Which of the 2 types would you say you're just wasting your time with that? Or
well, Either one, because once you get, if you're in a compound, once you get the draw link set for you, there's no reason to change it. If the draw weight, that you can generally change yourself, because it's just tightening down the 2 screws on the limbs.
Okay.
Now if it's a recurve or longbow, you're not changing anything on it.
No.
So if it's a takedown, you could replace limbs.
That's right.
Which is the advantage of the takedowns. And the one thing I'd say is, do not look at the name brand. You don't care what the brand is. Most all the bow manufacturers nowadays make good quality bows. Don't get into the hype that don't get into the hype that, okay, this brand name is the best. No, it's not. It is not the best. It might be the worst one for you, or it might be the best one. But you won't know until you go in with an open mind. Don't worry about what they're trying to sell you, and go to a shop that is going to sell you what you need, not what they want to sell.
That's right.
We have a local store. It's a sporting. They have all kinds of sports stuff in there. Baseball, not just archery, and they're on commission, so they're going to sell you the most expensive bow, the most expensive sight, the most expensive rest, because they make commissions on it. They make more money when they say the high dollar stuff.
As a business, that's what they're at.
Right. So go to a place like when I had my store. You come in. I'm not selling you the most expensive item. I like to use an example. They come in. I put the cheapest stabilizer on in can, mostly to hold the sling on place, and then I'm going to put that on there, and then you're going to shoot a few times. Then I'm going to take it off. I'm going to put a high dollar release stabilizer on. Can you tell the difference? No, buy the cheap one.
Exactly.
Because that's best for you.
That's best, because I got myself a nice bow from Amazonia. You get all the stuff from Amazonia. There aren't that many shops nearby. Here. So there are actually good shops where you can go to compounds, and they're really cool guys, as long as you keep it in marketable condition. They're quite happy for you to take it back and try it and then send it back to them. And a lot of the accessories you buy online on Amazon or other ones. And I like that. What you're saying is really cool, because you can start with something basic and just go for it and see, well, that works for me. There's no point in going to like a catalog and going, I'm going to get the 150 quid one.
And if I was, had a limited budget, I'd spend most of my money on the release. Good quality release. If you're using
a good quality release.
So
you would use it. Keep going.
Spend half your money on the bow and the accessories. Get a ready to shoot package, which includes the rest of the sight, a quiver, all that kind of stuff you need. And then go buy a good quality release. And the straightest arrows you can find. Now, when you're first starting out, get the cheaper arrows, because you're going to lose them or break them. Just realize that when you go to a straighter arrow, when you go to a straighter arrow, your group's going to tighten up. So spend the money on a release. Get some arrows to practice with, and then once you get where you're getting a decent group, buy your higher quality arrows, and your group's going to tighten up automatically. So spend the money. There's some cheap releases out there that are just, they're not very good. Some of the names that are really good are Scott releases, Carter, Stanislavski's. True Ball has some good ones if you stay away from their low end ones. Some of the high ends, they have some really good ones. All of them, stay with the higher ends. Right now you're probably going to spend 60 and up. I wouldn't spend anything less than that on a release. My handheld release is probably about $200.
That's not okay. So it sounds like it's almost worth delaying the point of purchase, moving up till you can afford better loose, the better. Stay with what you've got. Practice your technique. Practice your form. Practice your skills. Make sure that the arrows are as straight as you can get them.
Right.
We all know cheap arrows are they are like that. So and then when you've got some more money, then rush out and get the big shiny thing. Go for the release.
Yeah. Now, if you
Yeah.
just realize if you start with like a very inexpensive caliper type release,
Yeah.
you're going to have a lot of trigger movement before it fires. And that trigger movement is going to make you think about the trigger moving and stop aiming. So you can't aim. That's why I say, you know, if at all possible, get yourself a good quality release that the trigger has very minimal travel.
All right. Okay, that's cool. So there's less travel. Yeah.
Right, because you're not actually pulling the trigger like a firearm.
Yeah.
You're going to pull the trigger. On a bow, you don't pull the trigger.
Yeah.
You use you hook it around it, put pressure on it, and pull through.
Yeah.
You know,
and I think a lot of folks maybe transitioning from finger shooting to the release purely because that's what the bow market is now at the moment. The bigger choice on that side of the market, and that's getting up. So they might be looking to see how they make their decisions. You know, and and what kind of, so like you said, there's no point in them even trying the cheaper one, just going to put you off. Wait a bit until you get something that's a bit better built and a bit has less travel.
And you know, and if you're going with the recurve or longbow, you're most likely going to use fingers.
Yes.
You know, we had a neighbor kid that, you know, just used a regular glove and it was hurting his fingers. So I sold him a regular glove to shoot with. And you know, it's much better on your fingers because that extra pad in there. And the problem I had to on my compound, I originally started fingers on my compound because you know, I didn't ever grow up with a release. I grew up shooting fingers. And then when I got my compound, it was just short enough that the string angle was so sharp, my ring would start going numb. So I had to go to release because you know my fingers going numb after, you know, dozen shots. So I can't shoot much because they're so short. And now the shorter ones, you can't shoot them with fingers because you couldn't even get your fingers in there. Some of them are so short. You have to shoot them with a release. And you know, that's what I like shooting with fingers. I have a glove that I can't wear it anymore because my fingers don't fit it anymore. But I had that when I had my bow in the 60s. So you know, and the leather is kind of all shot, but I have other gloves now that I use. But what I put on my recurve is the no gloves. It's just a little rubber piece. You go above the knock point and another one below it, so you arrow between it, and it's a little rubber. I don't have that string rubbing across my fingers. So I don't use a glove.
So you prefer to use that. It gives you that dexterity.
And one of the main reasons I did that is that bow fishing, you have the water, you have the slimy fish. I don't like the tab because it kind of restricts my fingers. I like the glove, but I don't want to have a leather glove getting all full of slimy fish and everything else. So this way, I just have a towel, dry my hands off and go.
I mean, that's interesting because in Scotland it's going to rain. You're going to get rain. It's going to happen. So I mean, it's good to know because I'll put people off in putting finger tap. But when you go on a damp day and I can't shoot, it's too wet. But if you had a bow with that on it, you can go. It's not too bad. I can go do some shooting. I can go out and out and about. Normally you would go. You know what I mean? Because your fingers, everything's going to get soaking. But you know, it's something that you can,
that's something to look at. Is that they're called no gloves, and that you just take and just slide them on your string, and you know, that's something come like a little bobby pin that you hook around the loop and you push it through the rubber thing and you pull it down. Now, if you just freshly wax your string, it works so much easier putting them on. And then you don't need a glove.
They sound really interesting. Are they expensive?
No, they're fairly inexpensive. So they're cheaper than buying a glove.
Cool.
I haven't priced them recently, so I don't really know what they cost. But
that sounds good. You definitely look at that. That sounds good. Yeah. Anything that helps, particularly in a lighter bow, you know.
Yeah, there's all kinds of different stuff out here that is cool that you can use. I just thought, while I have it, I'm just going to do a quick search on
Aye, definitely, man. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Does that mean, because I was shooting down in a 3D thing, and the rain came in, as it does, the drizzle came in, and you can feel your finger tab. You can feel your finger tab, and I have my favourite finger tab with me, by the way. This is the one I've been shooting with for a while. I had to
I just looked it up. Let me do a quick share of the screen there. You can see it.
Okay, go for it, man. Go for
it. It's on Lancaster Archery. Right here's the no gloves, the 2 pieces of rubber. They're $5.99 as of today. I don't know what they'll be tomorrow, but $5.99 for no gloves. And,
that's not bad, man.
Yeah, and then you got your traditional tabs here next to it on the screen. The Black Mamba traditional 3-tab, $45 as opposed to $6, and that's something that if you're in a wet environment, go for it. Now, if you're in a competition, I'd probably go maybe with the tab, because you get a little smoother release. Because those are kind of going to roll off your finger. Where the tab, it's going to, when you pull that, it's going to slide off instead of rolling, because that will roll the string.
Yeah, and that's what most people are building up towards, practicing leading towards competition. The shooting with others, it's fantastic. I do a lot of Zen archery. It's amazing. You shoot lighter bows, and it's amazing. So that means that the finger pressure is lighter, so you can use your natural fingers. But as we develop, like you were saying, you could use that as a stepping stone.
Right.
You could step from that, and then step to finger tabs, and then better finger tabs. If you're looking for the first thing to get yourself,
Yeah.
And then from finger tabs to release aids,
There's a lot of options for what you want to do.
There is.
And it's, what is your preference? There's no right way and wrong way.
I love that.
If the tournament says that, in your traditional equipment, you cannot use a release aid, then you can't use it. But if it doesn't specify, and you need to use it, because sometimes you'll have problems with your finger or something, and you can't really pull it back, and there's all kinds of different reasons why you need to do something.
When there are classes out there that are written to be very specific, so that's like with like is competing with each other, and there's other classes that are written to be more open. So along with within the framework of what they're looking at, So you got in the Reeker freestyle, for example, it's a finger class, but the fully unlimited, or if this is an IFA class, then I think there's more scope in that. So that's interesting. And you go.
No, go ahead.
I suppose it's just something that to get used to. When I was developing through that, actually, I watched a guy. He was shooting a Korean bow, beautiful little thing, beautiful wee thing, and I noticed, hang on a minute, he's not using his fingers. Wait a minute, he's using his thumb. I thought, wow, that's fantastic, because he's dealing with the short angle problem.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I thought, wow, that's really cool. And he's and the draw is really cool as well. So
yeah, there's a little bit different technique when they're doing. I know I was talking to I talked with a guy that did it off the horseback. And on the right hand of the bow, the arrow's on the left hand of the riser.
That's right.
And then you're using your fingers while on a horse bouncing around. You could not do it. You have to put it on the right side, and they're using their thumb, a thumb release on there, because they're pulling through and then releasing that way. And Yeah, it's completely different way of shooting.
That's right. Yeah. And I was experimenting with that, and he started to learn it. And back in the day, the internet wasn't very good, unfortunately. You would do that. You can see the picture downloaded.
Yeah. Well,
But man, yeah.
and I found here's the thumb ring.
Oh, yeah, amazing.
It
Yeah,
puts right on your
brilliant.
thumb. I'm not sure how
Yeah.
to use it. I haven't really looked into it, but
It's a fantastic way of shooting.
yeah,
And the experts will tell you this. There's a lot of different methods you can shoot. So you can shoot, and then actually you can normally, you shoot the other side. Well, there's a variant where you can shoot on the conventional side as well, because it's to do with the way it plays with the archer's parts. So when your bow is canted, it's normally what they're worried about. We don't want anything lifting off. But if you can't, you can pull back and it puts it back on the riser. You see.
yeah.
And I started to figure that's out because it was before we had ambidextrous plotters. This weren't available. I had to use the bow I had, and the horse bow I had was a replica of a replica of a replica. It had been westernized, basically. You know what I mean? So it wasn't fully ambidextrous either. I mean, I love shooting off the horse bow. It was brilliant. You know that you've got that feeling of shooting off your hand, like a longbow. It's amazing. There's a lot in that kind of when you're pulling it, and then like you said earlier, but feeling the hand, feeling it. It's very much this in that kind of vein. And not avoiding that, a vice grip and then you shoot a nice looser grip on it, but you don't want the thing to fly your hands.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you still have to have that loose bit, and then you end up putting your fingers on a nice wee relaxed grip, so you can still relax and have that confidence. And I'm going to shoot off my hand. Yeah, and then think, well, hang on, how do you do that? Right? Okay. Well, there's two options. You can look at that. You can put a tiny wee bit of rest on your bow if you want to. That's cool. Or you can use a glove. And I started using a gardening glove because you can get gardening gloves. You know what I mean? You have to go. There's no pro shop nearby, or online. And then I started to experiment a bit with different types of thumb rings. Yeah. I didn't like that fit. I loved it, and I was watching the video guys. The darting. Originally, it was via Arton, and that was a static web page. You know what I mean? It was a good information, but you couldn't see it. And then I found the Korean guy. And he was shooting 150 meters with ease.
Oh,
yeah. I mean, and that. Well, hang on a minute. A short bow, 150 meters, and he's shooting with ease. Wait a minute. There's something to learn from you. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? There's something to learn from you, and there's something to. And then I started to look at that, and I thought, I like the way, and you can see how he started to problem solve. And then I looked at other websites and other groups, and then I started to experiment. Well, okay, I can do that. Fingers are a bit too small, so I can do this. Oh, wait a minute, I can do that. Hang on. And then it became like you're saying earlier. Didn't like that film. Didn't like that one. Yeah, I didn't like that one. I liked that one. That was better. And you basically learn as you go. And I end up, it's a company down south, Arms of Gold, great guys, and they got me a Japanese glove. Yeah. And that was because it was more comfortable than the glove, and it was properly built for the purpose of thumbing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's designed and involved, and I'm not using it properly because I'm not a Japanese archer. Sorry, guys. I would like to be, but I was wearing it, and but wow, nice, and that's when I kind of went from recurve to horsebow to kind of compact.
Yeah, and if anybody's listening has any experience with that, hey,
Aye,
comment, let us know, because we'd be interested in, learning.
aye.
It's something it's so cool about archery is,
Yeah, isn't it? There's a lot in it.
yeah, there is. There's a lot in it, and I've done, you know, lots of interviews with people all over the world, and
Uh,
it's all the same, but it's all different.
that's right. Yeah. Aye. So when you're shooting, and you're getting someone into that kind of style, basically it sounds like to me you want them to get to the best goal they can get, but focusing on a decent tab or a good release aid, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Aye.
You're much better off to, um, as long as the bow fits, you go to the pawn shop and buy the cheapest bow you can and
Mhm.
spend the money on a good release. You know,
Yeah.
say you've
Aye.
got $600 that you're going to buy your bow.
Uh-huh.
Go out and spend $200, get a good quality release, and spend the other
Aye.
400 on a cheap bow.
Yeah,
As long
definitely.
as it fits you.
Yes, that's right.
Don't go out and spend $2,000 on a bow that don't fit you, because it's worth less than that $400 bow that fits you. It's got to fit
Absolutely.
you.
Yeah, that's right. It's got to fit you. Aye.
Can
So
you comfortably draw it back? I
aye.
always make sure, if you can't, okay, pretend like a deer is there and they're going to see any movement that you make. Can you slowly draw that bow back and get to your anchor point?
Aye.
If you can't do that, you're pulling too much weight.
That's a good analogy. So if you can't, if you're at a small target and if you can't do that, if your muscles are, if you're pushing against your muscles, then you're drawing too much weight. If you're drawing smoothly, then it's better for you.
Right.
Show us that smooth action again, in case someone's missed it.
Yeah, it just pretend like the deer is there, and if you have any big movement, they can see it. You see a lot of people trying to draw their bows, especially compound, up in the air and drawing back across their chest and moving up to their anchor point. All this movement, the deer is going to bust you. So lean slightly forward, point your deer, you point your hand towards the target where you want to go, and now grab that release or the string or whatever and slowly draw back, get to your anchor point. Now, once you're at your anchor point, you can do it slowly. Now, then you're not going to be as apt to spook that deer and then run off. Now, once you get to your anchor point, now then you can either wait for the deer to present a shot or take your shot or whatever you need to do. And if you have to hold for a long time and you struggle just to draw it back, especially on a recurve, a longbow, if you're struggling to draw it back smoothly, you're not holding very long. You're letting down or shooting one way or the other, because you're not going to hold very long. But if you can slowly draw back, you're not over pounded for it. Your draw weight's not too high. And now once you get where it's like, okay, I can hold this for 5 minutes. Now you might want to go and think about adding up, another 5-pound, 10-pound bow.
That's good.
If it's not replaceable limbs, then you just buy another bow. If it is, lots of times you can say, okay, I have 40-pound limbs. I'm doing just fine with those. Let me order in instead of 50-pound limbs, or even 45. Depending on how much you want to jump at one time. And draw back. And it's like, okay, now you're there. I want to shoot more weight, because I want to have, less drop in my arrows. I know a lot of target archers, guys shooting 40 pounds. The compound's 40 pounds. Shooting 20 yards, 40 pounds. That's it. The arrow just kind of lobs in, but it lobs in consistently. And they don't want the fast bow, because it magnifies your mistakes. We've talked about that many times. The faster the bow, the faster it magnifies your mistakes.
That's right. And most of the distance we shoot here are tend to be fairly close to 35 yards, 45 yards at the further away targets. You know what I mean? And competitions go further. So you're right. So you can start light, and you can then have that nice smooth motion, and you can have time, and you take time to take your shot. You do less shots initially, concentrate, settle in, hold it in stillness, maybe. That's my expression. That's my shot movies. You know
May
the
miss
movie.
anyway, but still, go through
Yeah.
that process, the same thing every
Yeah.
time.
Aye, that's right.
I have a system I go through when I get ready to draw my bow. I take my hand and I put, kind of a high wrist. I put the part between my thumb and index finger, and then I drop my hand down, and then I put pressure on the in between the meaty parts on your hand. And that's the part you want to push with, because if take somebody, hold your arm out and have somebody push on that spot on your arm and see how far that force goes clear through your whole body. Now have them push over on the meaty part, and your hand, your wrist wants to turn. Either way. We use that principle in martial arts a lot for lock and joints, because we'll purposely hit that one of those outside points that twists the wrist. Right. We're twisting it to lock it up so we can lock your joints and throw you on the ground, or control you, whatever. But if you don't do that, you get in that good strong point, you're not going to do it. And for those that have martial arts experience, think a heel palm strike. That is the part you're pushing your bow with. I always ask martial arts experience.
So you're being efficient.
Right.
I mean? Yeah. So I like that your analogy previously that nice draw run, the one that was going to be up there. You know what I mean? Yeah. But that feels more in control, doesn't it?
Yes.
It feels calmer as well.
Yes, and you're also stronger.
Watching that, they would go, oh, that's okay.
See, you can test this out. Take and put your arm up, and somebody, have somebody resist it, and now push down. How hard you can push down? Without much effort, they can hold that arm up, because that's what you're doing. When you're drawing back, you're pulling down with that arm. That's the weak part of the arm. Now have somebody take, and that pressure point we talk about, and now push them with that, and you're going to see that you're going to knock them over. And much more power,
because you're more efficient. You're more kinetically efficient with what your body can do. I like that. I like that way of doing it, because there's no point in forcing yourself to do a maneuver your body can't accomplish initially, because it's going to feel different.
Be efficient, and I've seen even on the TV shows, you'll see them. They'll draw back across their chest using your chest muscles, and then struggle to get it back, and then have to raise up to their anchor point, and then they have their finger above the trigger, and they get ready to shoot. You'll see that finger, and they'll just slam on that trigger. They did everything wrong. Because they're on TV, they do show the kills, but even a blind squirrel will find a nut once in a while, right?
That's right. So that's all very exaggerated. They think they have to show off. They're using big, massive movements to try and get everything. And maybe like maybe the bow's too heavy for them. Who've got different kinds of strengths, as you said earlier.
The bow is too heavy for them, because they want to have that extra power, because they think they need it, to do the kill on the camera. I'm not sure where the video is anymore now, but I seen it one time. I seen a video of this guy trying to pull his bow back. Wasn't his bow. He thought he was macho, could pull back this fairly high poundage bow. It could have been 60 pounds. Who knows what it was? He's struggling. Finally gets back to full draw, and he's holding it in his left arm. The bow slips out of his left arm and smacks him. I just busted out laughing. It's like, dude, you have no business pulling that bow back.
I've seen that kind of thing. That's right. So it's better to, when you're looking at that catalog or that page, avoid all the heavy stuff just to start with. Find something that's A, within your budget, and B, that's actually that your body can coordinate. And then when, like you're saying, when it starts to feel a wee bit, oh, hang on, I can do this for 7 hours, then build up.
Right. Build up. My first compound bow was set at 52 pounds. It'd go to 70. I couldn't pull back 70.
That was where they came out on.
I shot 52 pounds. I shot 52 pounds for a long time, and it's trying to build up, and I'd okay, now I got to 55 and 59 and 60 was a struggle to get to 60, and then I got to 62, and then eventually then it's like, okay, I'm up to 70. You know, I could finally do it, but it took a long time of shooting before I could finally get it there, moving a little bit at a time. And one of the things you can do, you know, for the compound shooters, and you want to build their strength, is let them shoot for a week or two, and go in and turn both limbs tighter, a half a turn. And then they're gonna shoot. They won't know it because you didn't tell them you turned it. They're gonna go. They're gonna shoot. When it looks like they're getting fairly easy, go ahead and crank it. You know, maybe have to go a quarter turn. Just turn a little bit, tightens the limbs down, and next thing you know, they're building up.
That's right.
With recurves, you can't really do that, but you know what you can do is you know, go out and find somebody with a little bit heavier bow.
With some recurve systems, you can adjust the tiller. They're built that way, so you can actually change that. You can have them bolted in or bolt. You know what I mean? So there are some systems that do that. But or you have also have a collection of different sites. Normally, you have different types of limbs. So you know, you can have different, and you go to the custom bow maker, and he'll say, "Well, this is going to be efficient for you. Your draw length, the one I use here, it's a good example." You know, I had a good, honest dialogue with the guy, and he said, "You need a bow length of this," and I was like, "Okay, I can't strain that too long." So he said, "Okay, you can have this size of riser and this size of and bow, and it's fabulous. But I mean, and then you can, if you want to go up in weight, you can just get another size of limbs for this one." Or you end up with I noticed a lot of people, this is a lot of these custom bows, and they hold the value quite well. So I noticed a lot of swapping backwards and forwards online. I want to move from this weight to that weight. Has anyone got that? You know, and I think archers are really helpful, to be honest with you. You like to help other archers, which is fantastic.
Yeah, that's nice when you can, you know, try different things out and exchange stuff. It's like, you know, I actually like a little bit longer limbs. So, you know, it's like, okay, I have some shorter limbs, and it's like somebody's, you know, maybe they want to go with shorter limb, and you let them try them, and if they like it, then they buy it, or you sell it to them or whatever. And you know, if they're close enough, just like, hey, stop over, we'll try them and see if you like them, and if you like them, then sell them to them, you know, or give them to them, you know, whatever. There's a lot of stuff that, you know, we have extras that, you know, somebody starting out would be glad to, you know, here, take it.
I'm quite happy to do that. You know, if I buy a bow and I've used it, I'll happily pass it on to someone else. Because it makes life easier to get it started. It's your springboard. It's that first bow again. It may be back to the bent stick, back to the first thing. It may be not the best bent stick in the universe, but it's your bent stick.
Right. Well, and you know, there's a little bit of it's like, hey, I'm doing this to help me out, because if I get more archers and there's no archery shop close by, you know, if there's a lot of archers, you know what? I bet a shop could open up and at least part-time, you know, somebody at their house, you start doing it. Next thing you know, you have a shop in your area, because you'd have no archers to support it. You know, so there's kind of a, you know, there's an ulterior motive sometimes to it. And the best one is seeing somebody that's just starting out and just get so excited about it. And it's like, okay, this is worth it, when they get excited and you get somebody new and you have somebody to go shoot with.
That's right. And you know, and you can happily pass on a bow that you've used for a while, and maybe it's you moved on from it. You know what I mean? You know, you started with that bow and it's still working okay, and you go, well, there you go. You know what I mean?
You know, there's always going to be that one or two bows that you'll never get rid of. And you know, like I still have my very first bow from the 60s, was a Van Pearson 25-pound fiberglass. And I put a little bracket on it to hold a fishing reel on it. I can't put it in my hand anymore because my hand's too big compared to what it's then, you know, back in the 60s when I was, you know, 10, 12 years old. I won't, it's got a string on it. I won't string it because the fiberglass, you know, being, you know, 50 plus years old, last time we had it, I see a little bit of defects starting to form in it. So, you know, I won't string it, but, you know, I won't get rid of it.
Yeah,
You know,
fair enough. Because fiberglass is like that. It's not one material. It's done in layers.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
So eventually the layers kind of come apart. But like you said, you'll keep it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, when I die, they can do whatever they want with it because I can't use it no more. Yeah, like some of the other stuff is like, yeah, it means something to me, but it means nothing to anybody else. So, you know, hey, give it to somebody that can use it. Now that bow, I'd probably, you know, not let them. You know, I'd tell them, it's like, you know, don't give that to somebody that's actually going to shoot it.
Exactly. I like to pass on stuff. Stuff is passed on to me. I like to pass stuff on to you know, others to just to get them started. And if they pass that on, that's fine. You know, and if they have a bit of a economic downturn and need to sell it, and okay, you know,
yeah, there's just so much that we can do with archery that it's just
it's fabulous, isn't it? There's so much we can do with it, from your the bench stick we started with, to the custom bow here, and the table here, the compound, and the stepping stone recurves and all that. You know, yeah. They said there's a lot we can do with it.
Yeah, there is. Now, do you have any hunting that you do there in Scotland, or?
Yeah, we don't do, as I said earlier, we don't do bow hunting because it's banned, it's illegal. But we do actual hunting, not in the place I shoot. I have to emphasize that.
Yeah.
Yeah, good. We don't do hunting there. I emphasize that, and we have a membership system. People join. Again, I emphasize that again. We'll take you through that. But what we do is we learn the skill. We translate it. So we don't actually do live game hunting, but we do 3Ds. We do field archery, we do traditional archery, we do Zen archery, we do target archery. So we're using very similar equipment with some obvious changes. You know what I mean? Yeah. Because we're not trying to shoot through the target. You get me?
Yeah.
We're trying to shoot at the target. You know, and sometimes even in the target.
Yeah, it's always good when the arrow hits the target somewhere.
Isn't it? It's so good, you know, it's so satisfying when you draw back, you take your aim at whatever range you like to shoot at. Like I said, the black bear range, I love that idea. Coming really close and just, you know, getting that full draw. Yeah, I love that. And then doing what we call a walk back. So that you move further back and you gain confidence every time you do that. Yeah. Aye. Yeah, so that's what we do, and that's what we do here. Yeah, and if people want to travel internationally and go overseas and do it, then okay, that's up to them. Yeah, I mean,
there's a lot of options on how far you want to take it.
Exactly, there's a lot of options where you want to take it. Exactly, that's what I love. You know what I mean? I love there's a lot of options, and you can go down the one-piece route, or you want the takedown route, or the compound route, or a traditional bow, or maybe even build your own. You know what I mean? And it kind of goes full circle. A wee bit of psychology to finish it. There's a theorist out there called Maslow. Really interesting if you look at it. And what he believes is it's a stepping stone. Every single step leads to the next step, and you're building upwards. Yeah.
Yeah.
When you see his thing, it's quite often written as a pyramid, as a graphic, because graphics make sense. But actually, it's actually more of a spiral. So every single stage, you get to that. Wow, I've learned that thing. And wait a minute, I'm now stronger, like you were saying earlier.
Yeah.
I'm now more efficient. Wait a minute, my form's settled down. Hang on, you go to the next stage, the spiral goes up. Yeah, and then you get to another stage, and then you start to think, oh, wait a minute, I want to show them what I know. So then it becomes more about teaching.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's how we was hand there. That's the eye. That's the eye tracking my hand there. Aye. So yeah, and it's really, really, really cool. Another theorist we use is the person-centered psychology that you're talking about earlier. When you enable someone to get started, yeah,
Yeah.
you enable them to help them to make a choice, and to whatever actually they want to get into, whatever form it is, you know, they enable them to make that choice, and listen and work with an expert like yourself. Yeah, yeah, I mean, and learn, like you were saying earlier, learn. Oh, wait a minute, I don't have to panic here. I can make a small change. Yeah.
Yeah, one little change can make a big difference. And that's what's nice when you have a coach or a mentor or somebody that you're working with that knows what's going on. Sometimes we can see a little bitty little tweak that you can make.
Yeah.
And I've had some pretty top archers send me a video, and it's like,
amazing.
Give me some tips, something I can fix. And I'm looking at it, it's like, okay, I don't see any problem. I don't see a problem. It's like, oh, let's try tweaking right here, this one little bitty spot.
Yeah.
Where a new archer is like, okay, let's start with the basics with pulling a trigger, or something.
Yeah,
you get in there,
right.
but as you get better and better, it's that little fine little thing that you're looking at. And every time I record me shooting, it's like, why are you doing it that way? That's not the way you're supposed to be doing it, and then you look at it and critique, it's like, oh, okay, that's what I'm doing. And it's nice when you have a video of you shooting and it goes off and I can't see my finger moving or my thumb moving. It just goes and shoots. And I did a little series on different things that I teach in shooting in the group, and you can see some of those and watch the ones of me shooting the handheld release as well as the wrist release, and the only difference is my anchor point. Point, the knuckle behind the jaw, there's a little pocket back on your ear right here below the ear, and there's a little pocket in there. There's actually a nerve point right there. It's a good pressure point we learn in martial arts. As long as you stimulate it. But I'll put my knuckle in there, the first index knuckle, but the handheld, it's actually my ring finger knuckle that goes there, because I just rotate my hand depending on the release, because I have a kisser button, which that's always lined up. I have my touch on my nose, but I have the peep. So a peep and kisser button lines up. If those are in the right position, I don't care whether my hands turn around or whatever position the hand is in, because those 2 points and the nose force it to be in the right position.
That's right.
And then when you put a mask on, you have to be careful, because the mask is keeping you from getting the kisser button in or your hand in. So you have to think about that and make sure you push in a little bit harder to take care of that extra gap from that mask.
Yeah, that's right. But it shows that actually you can evolve and adapt. You know what I mean? Yeah. And that was, we did the same. Yeah, we had to evolve, and we had to adapt, and we had to change what we could do. The range, we put more lanes in to enable social distancing, and we've got some great targets, and then we just decided to have key targets and then smaller ones.
Yeah, there's just so many things that we could talk about it. We could go on for hours, but
I know.
We don't want to talk for hours, but
that's okay, man. That's okay.
It's great, talking with you today.
Thank you, man.
We talked a little bit the other day before, before we got on, just to kind of get to know each other a bit. And that was that was a lot of fun, and now we get to actually spend some time and do some serious talking, and learn how things are done in Scotland, and all a little bit different. I've talked to a guy in United Kingdom someplace, I forget where he was at. It's it's all a little bit different, and
It is, and every single part of the UK, it's different. We have a different, slightly different emphasis. We have the same associations right across the UK, and that's fantastic. And we also have local ones as well, which is also really good. And people can jump between them, just whatever suits you, whatever you like. There's an association there. You can learn from them. You can get started. The same with us. You can come along and get started. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the same. Everybody I've talked to all over the world, it's like,
Mm.
hey, if you want to learn, here's where we're at. Stop down.
Yeah.
We'll get you
That's
started.
it.
You know, no matter where you're at, whether you're in the United States or Canada, you're in Croatia, Bosnia, United Kingdom, Scotland, Africa. This it's all the same thing. It's like,
isn't it?
Hey,
it's fabulous.
if you have a bow and I have a bow, we're automatically friends. That's kind of the way it works out. It's like, hey, let's go shoot.
Let's go shoot. Let's go and chill out. Let's go shoot. Let's go and listen and enjoy the session, man.
Yeah, and then learn from each other, because there's going to be things, if we're sitting down there, you're shooting your recurve and I have my recurve. I'm going to learn a lot from you, because I don't shoot as much as you do. And if you have a compound, you can learn from me. And
absolutely, definitely, definitely, because it's going to be the more of that is going to be working with a release aid.
Right.
Now I normally shoot fingers, but I know eventually I'm going to have to get used to using a release aid, and that's okay. I don't mind. It's part of learning. It's part of like you're saying. There's lots, and each step. My bow is very, 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 very light. But it doesn't have much let up either. But anyway, that's okay. So you can, that'd be brilliant, man.
Yeah, there's just so much, and
there's a lot, man,
if you're at least the same draw length, I know. I shoot right-handed because I'm right-eye dominant, but I've shot left-handed bows, and because they're my draw length, I pull up and I shot. It's like shot it good because the technique was there. Whether shooting right or left-handed, and actually instructing, I'd rather instruct a left-handed shooter.
Okay.
Because now, as I'm showing them right-handed, they're looking at me, they're matching me. So if I'm helping a left, right-hander, I'm actually demonstrating left-handed, because then they can, because otherwise I can't really see it. So I'm facing them.
I know what you mean.
Do this. So, I'm. The technique is the technique. It's just.
That's right. The technique is technique.
Yeah. And you learn how to do some of that, when you're teaching archery, for a long period of time, teaching right and left-handed shooters, you're kind of adapting to them. And so instead of a left-hander adapting to you, you need to adapt to them as instructors.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Same thing goes with any sport, no matter what it is. Back when I was a kid, they taught everybody, right-handed. If you're left-handed, you had to turn your hand upside down to right so you can see it. Well, I learned how to shoot, right left-handed, but I turned the paper the other direction. Instead of being the paper pointed like a right-hander and then trying right over the top of it backwards, just turn the paper. My uncle, he's left-handed, and that's what he turns the paper, and that's the same way.
That's right.
Why turn your wrist? I never could. That's right. I can't get my wrist to work that way. But I do it just mirrored.
That's right, and it's a mirror image.
So I could pick up a left-handed bow and I could shoot it. Actually, right now, with the way my eyes are, actually my left eye is my clear eye, my right eye is my dim eye, and I see two sets of pins. And my mind over the years ignored a dim set of pins. So I look at the pins. My left eye is going to be the one my mind is going to pick up. So I either have to start blinking and force it, or I find if I wear a hooded sweatshirt, because I turn my head, because I always wear a baseball cap when I don't have one right now, but I normally wear a lot of baseball caps. As I wear a baseball cap and turn my head, it blocks my left eye, so I don't have to worry about it.
Good idea, man.
But the pins are blurry. The pins are everything's blurry, but it's kind of weird when I see my fiber optic pins. They look like like a red pin with a black dot in the center of it. It's weird. I don't know what's going on, but that's what I see when I look at them, and I'm not shooting those 100-yard shots just because I can't see them. I can't see them good enough to shoot them, so I just don't. You know, 40 yards kind of the max I'm going to shoot, because I'm bow hunting. I'm not going to take a shot longer than 40 yards anyway.
Yeah, that's right. And a lot of there's a lot of common skill there. 40 yards is actually a very good distance, because this is where you're testing your skill. This is where you see your kit is at. You know what I mean? So for some bows, 10 yards is very close, 20 yards is very close, 30 yards a bit better. But 40 yards, yeah, that's that moment.
Now, my hunting bow set up with 60-yard pans. You know, and I used to, in practice, I used to take 60-yard shots all the time. You know, I'd go out to 30, 40, 50, 60 yards and shoot. And, you know, the nice thing about doing that is it develops your skill. So at 20 yards, your groups are really tight, because you really have to focus really good at your target and not worry about everything else. And you get better and better shooting the long range. So shooting long range makes you better up close.
Definitely.
Yeah, it's that focus. You know, you start off at 20, go to 30 and 40, and then you go back to 20, and you're busting knocks and sticking arrows and
yeah, that's why the Vegas shoot has its free spot on it for that reason. Yeah,
and that's just one of the things that, you know, as you get older, you got to worry about and think about. You know, I used to use a fairly small peep in my string, and now I have the 1/4 inch, the largest one you can get, just because I can't see through those little ones anymore. You know, you just got to adapt. You know, some will use not shoot the glasses, use a clarifier in them instead. I had tried a clarifier once, but I really didn't like it too well, but I didn't really try too much. You know, a lot of them use them. I just don't, because I'm looking around. If I don't have my glasses on, I can't see good enough to really see what's going on, and I want to be able to see a little better. So
fair enough.
That's me. Each person's different. You know, if you can see good enough, you know, that you can really tell what's going on, and when you get through the clarifier,
that's it.
see clearly, then
yeah.
So it's just something to play with and take a look at.
Right. Yeah, and you can refine and you can adapt it.
Yeah. Well, and depending on what you're shooting, you know, it's all good. It's all fun. And
definitely.
Well, we've been here for a little while.
I know.
To talk for a little while. Well, you know, they seem to go about an hour and a half to 2 hours. Well, actually, generally an hour and a half to 3 hours is what some of them will run. And you know, it just depends on what's going on and how much time we have. And and it's been great talking with you. And likewise, I know we'll talk again later. And what would you like to tell the audience before we head out of here?
Well, I'd like to archery is amazing. Yeah. And we can all take part in it. We can all help each other. Yeah. We can all work together. We can support each other. And we do that really well. And I get a lot of help and support for the projects. I'm truly grateful for it. It's fantastic. Yeah. Yeah, it is. Well,
it's been great having you on the show. And I'm sure we'll be chatting some other time. And we'll just have to do that. Take a look for watch for the next podcast to come out. You know, like I said, they come out twice a week, and you know, catch them and make comments. And, you know, and if in archery you have a cool story you want to tell, hey, let me know. We'll get you on the podcast. You know, talk about archery. And
thank you very much, man.
And
greatly appreciate it.
Yeah,
thank you very much, man.
I really enjoyed talking with you today.
Yeah, likewise, man. Likewise.
My name is Roy Canterbury, and I've been your host today on Arch Talk 101, and we'll see you on the next one.
Thank you very much.